Strap yourself in for Keeping It Real with Jack and Raoul.
Welcome back, Keepers, to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jack and Raoul. I'm Gabrielle Dolan.
And I'm Jack Phillips.
And today we are talking about ageism.
Ageism.
Because I don't know about you, I don't think I heard that term even a few years ago. It seems to be hearing it a lot, hence why we thought we would do
I've had a couple
something
of
on ageism.
keepers say to me, I'm returning to the workforce after a bit of a career break, or I'm returning to the workforce because I've been at home with kids. And they might be parents that have waited till later in their stage of life to have children. And they're feeling that ageism could be a thing. So they haven't experienced it yet, but they're preparing for it. So it's an interesting one, Raoul. One of my favourite sayings, which is sort of the reverse really, but maybe not, because I haven't defined ageism yet, and I think most people think it's a certain thing when actually it's not. So we'll explain it in a moment.
Yes.
But age is an attitude, not a number. Yes. Have you heard me say that before?
I think I've heard you say that a lot before. So
with that, I'll give you the definition of ageism. So ageism refers to stereotypes, which is how we think, prejudice, which is how we feel, and discrimination, which is how we act towards others or ourselves based on age. So it's not just an old people thing. So I always thought ageism was you are discriminating against people that are older.
Well, I think that's how it's referred to right now. We talk about ageism, and it's often, I've only ever heard it mentioned when it's discrimination about people of an older.
Yet younger people can experience ageism because we could be stereotyping, prejudicing and discriminating against them.
Yeah.
What's interesting is ageism is a bit of a rough thing in that it negatively impacts our health and well-being, our financial security and the economy. Which I can understand. If you have closed mind, or if you have a point of view where you just think all older people are useless, or all younger people don't want to work, those sort of cliches you hear bandied around, then I could see how it could impact your health and well-being, the economy, your financial security.
And it is stereotyping. Like, example, you don't rent out your property to young people. Well, that's ageism.
Well, that's a really interesting one. So my son shares the most magnificent home in a very expensive suburb with 4 other young men. So these boys are all aged between 24 and 32. And to get into the house is a challenge for them, or to get a house, to get a rental property, because they're all young men.
Yeah.
They're all fitness and health experts. Some of them are content creators, some are working in other industries. Point being, they're all in bed at 9 o'clock at night and they're up at 5 o'clock in the morning and they're running and they're eating all healthily. They are the most boring group of men you could ever wish to meet. Ask their girlfriends. So they're the perfect housemates and they're the perfect tenants.
Yes.
They're all earning really great money and they're so well behaved. They don't have parties.
Yeah. Yeah.
So ageism sort of affects them too.
So I think we need to be mindful when we talk about ageism, we're talking about discriminating against people based on their age. Right. Just like sexism is discriminating people against their sex, racism discriminates. So it exists. All the isms exist. But what we want to talk about is what you can do if you feel you are being subjected.
A victim of
ageism.
Young
and
or old.
We want to challenge that.
Just in case you're forgetting things in your old age.
Also want to, it exists. We're not denying that, but we want to challenge it and what you could do about it if you feel like you are in that situation.
Exactly. So I think this episode, whilst it's about ageism and helping us understand it and unpack it, it's also about self-awareness because you and I have found through our own experience, maybe through even personally, that sometimes ageism can be a really handy excuse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A convenient story we tell ourselves.
Yes. And we've done a whole episode on convenient stories. Which was episode 14, I do believe.
The stories we tell ourselves.
But look, this has come from quite a few conversations with people I've had, and this is older people who are saying,
Define older. What? No, seriously. We're doing late 40s, early 50s.
No, well, the people I'm thinking of who I've had conversations have been in their early 60s.
Oh, okay.
So we're not talking like 80, 90
not
or whatever.
elderly.
Not elderly,
Mature
wise,
age.
mature. But what I'm finding is they're finding it hard to get a job.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, it is. But almost saying bits because everyone's ageist. And so I'm not denying that it exists,
Some people
but
may
you
be
sort of got to
ageist.
go, and this is what we talk about the convenience story, and if you haven't listened to that episode is
Episode
like
14.
the convenience stories we tell ourselves is sort of like excuses to a point.
Yeah.
So the employer was ageist could be true.
Sure.
It could be true.
Sure.
But I would say, what if it's not true?
What if it's not true?
What if it's not ageism and it's actually you just didn't get the job?
Because of.
And why? And so we want to sort of go, well, if you feel you're in a situation where you're being discriminated against because of your age, that may be the case. But a lot of the times it may not be.
Correct.
And we want to take you through some, I guess, questions to pose to yourself to say, well, am I doing them?
Absolutely. So before we get to those, and I think it's really good, this is a practice in self-awareness and you potentially using ageism as an excuse. So let's debunk that and we'll go through it. I was just reflecting as you were talking. I learn a heap from a 26-year-old and a 28-year-old who happen to be my two gorgeous children. And I learn all sorts of things, health and well-being. I learn about, social media. I learn about their points of view politically, how they feel about certain remarks, et cetera, et cetera. I also sit on a board where our chairman is in his mid-70s and I learn so much from that person too. Incredible amounts. And so the opportunity for learning is irrelevant to age. It really is. It's openness. It's wanting to learn from people, asking them great questions. And I think that's a perfect segue into if you are using ageism as an excuse, then the first thing you should do, if you've missed out on a job and you believe it's because of your age, whether you're younger or older, then the first question you must ask yourself is, did I get feedback on why I didn't get the role?
Yep. Did you ask for it?
Did you ask for feedback? If not, then it's never too late.
No.
Some people I've encouraged to go back and ask feedback of them, and they applied for the role 3 or 4 months ago.
Yep. Back.
You've usually got a connection in either the recruitment agency or within the organisation. Can you tell me, do you have any notes? Can you remember what it was that meant I didn't get the role? Can you be really specific? I'm thick-skinned. I need to hear it so I can be better prepared for the future. Because a lot of ageism, or maybe it's not ageism, a lot of the reason why people don't get roles is because they're not relevant to the role. For some reason, it's their skills, experience, attitude, cultural fit. They're not relevant. So how do you get relevant?
Yep. I think the most key thing there is attitude. Because I would say a lot of them, they have the skill.
Yeah.
And they have the experience. So it's almost like I've got the skill and I've got the experience. And they almost feel like I'm the most qualified. And in their mind, the most qualified is I've got the most years experience. And they find it because when they come second, don't get the job, and it goes to someone 20 years younger, they find that really hard to process because they go, I've got more experience. But what you don't, so first of all, have you got 40 years experience, like of the same experience?
That's a worry.
But it's also,
you might be a deep expert in something.
Yeah,
but are you relevant?
Things keep changing.
Well, that's right. Are you relevant?
Things keep changing. And so the experience you had 40 years ago is probably not
as relevant.
It's
anymore.
probably only the last 5 years experience that's relevant. And I think also too, and this is some hard reality of the things, if you're in the same job and you've been working in the same job for 20 or 30 years and you work in a company where you get incremental increases, the reality is you'll be on the top of the range. Now, if the employer can get someone who's got, okay, they might not have 20 years experience, they might only have 5 years experience, they might be able to do 80% or 90% of the job you can do, but they're only paying them half the value, half the money, half the salary. Yeah. They're going to get the job. You and I have been in corporations where they go through restructures. The first people to go were normally the people
Correct.
that had been in the job the longest because they were the most expensive.
Exactly right. Now, what you've just raised is, I'm going to quote a book here, Arthur C. Brooks, amazing writer and philosopher in the US, writes for the New York Times. He's written a book, From Strength to Strength. I've referred to it in the past, and it's talking about the strength we have in getting older and what we can do, but recognise we can't do things as quickly as younger people. We don't move as quickly as young people. I mean, we know this ourselves, yeah? It doesn't matter how brilliant you are, it doesn't matter how, what vitamins you're taking, what drugs you're smoking, you will not be quicker than your 26-year-old son.
As I've discovered
or daughter.
on the pickleball court.
Hello. Pickleball has taught you that. So the point here is then, well, okay, if you know that and you also feel that you could be at risk because your organisation is going to hire somebody who's half your age and at half the salary, then what are you doing right now to make yourself really, really valued or valuable?
Yep. Yeah.
And experience does have value. There's no doubt about it. We need experience when it comes to many, many things and many, many roles and mentoring and leading and unlocking the potential of people. When it comes to technical skills, if you're not keeping up, you are going to be left behind. You become totally redundant.
Yeah.
So this excuse of ageism, be careful and ask yourself, am I using that excuse? And if you think you could be, then get the feedback. Am I relevant? Do I have the right skills? How much PD have I done recently?
That's it. Like you could
training?
Just very quickly
What
go,
have I learned?
What was the last professional development training you did?
I did.
And
Yep.
if you're going, I remember 6 years ago when it, like, okay, that in itself
6
is
years ago,
showing
so much has
you have
changed.
not kept up your skills.
So much has changed.
Especially, I know we'll talk. I know we've spoken before. We'll do something on AI, but things are changing so quickly.
Correct.
You need to be like just on top of this. I when we were away at Bermagui, there was about 10 of us. All people sort of my age, but one of the friends had a daughter who was in her 30s, and she was using ChatGPT like there was no tomorrow.
Replacing Google almost, right?
Well,
Yep.
replacing anything. At one stage we were thinking of cooking Mexican.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, we've got corn from my garden. And she literally just opened up ChatGPT and started going, we're cooking for 10 people. We want Mexican. We want to be able to use zucchini, corn. I think someone had a diet. We got blood blue. Can you please produce a shopping list for that? And it was the exact amount.
And then did you get the recipe as well?
Yeah, we got recipes.
Yeah.
And then can you provide a recipe on this?
So there's a whole training program around how to use prompts really well. I've got the information. I'm going to send it out to my clientele on Sunday night when I do thought leadership, because it's the prompts that you put in.
Yep.
But we have been limited in what we think we can use AI for.
Yes.
And in actual fact, we're starting to realise
can do it.
AI can do everything. If we want it to, it can answer so many things. It may not be perfect. It may not have emotions, all of that sort of thing. The point you're making is just because you're not using it doesn't mean to say that you can't and you can't learn how to use it. And there is that old saying, if you don't use it, you will lose it.
Yeah.
And it's so true. I watch mum and dad. They're great on social media. Dad's just started to stop using social media.
Yeah.
And he's falling behind really fast. And he's missing out on what grandchildren are saying and doing.
Yeah.
And we're all having a laugh about something that's been posted. He goes, what? I didn't see that.
Yeah.
And we're saying, well, we're tagging you on it, Dad. But it's hard, yeah? So, and learning is hard and staying relevant is hard. But boy, choose your hard.
But I think and this is what I said back, the most important thing was when you talk about skills and experience and attitude, you said attitude. I think attitude and this being open to learn.
Open to learning.
So I find a lot of older people, they will talk about the younger people in a very,
Negative.
they won't know. And it was like they're being ageism.
Yes.
Ageist. It was like if you're constantly finding yourself going, oh, bloody young people today, everyone wants to be an influencer and what will, they're naive. It was like, okay, so straight away that tells me that you are not open to learning from them.
That's exactly right.
You just, so if you don't get this whole influencers bullshit, blah, 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 have you actually asked someone what they do? And you'd be a
great point, Rael.
The point is they're just not open.
A great point.
And if you're not open to that and saying things like that, that's your attitude.
Yeah.
That's your brand. That's what people see. And I reckon sometimes people might not get the job and no one's going to say you didn't get the job because you're just old. they might be thinking, you just feel like you're not keeping up to date with things.
No, and it's amazing when people make comments like that. A lot of people just don't react to it or don't challenge them. So they get away with it, It's like the old, young people today, no, none of them want to work. I look at my 2 children, and I think your 2 are the same. They don't stop working.
Yeah.
Louis works 7 days a week.
Yeah.
He's building something very special and it means a lot to him. But this idea, young people don't work, yes, they do.
Yeah.
I had a young guy doing some research for a podcast he's doing with somebody else and wanted to interview me as part of the research for this other person that he's doing the interview with. And we were chatting and he said he got really cross with his mum because she said to him, content creators don't make money. Just what you just said then. And he said, and I slammed the door and walked out on her. And I said, that's a real shame that you did that because you've just missed out on an opportunity to educate your mum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she is repeating something she thinks is true that she might have heard. You could have told her that actually that's not the case. The person I'm going to be interviewing is actually a very well-paid and very successful content creator who's self-employed.
Yeah.
And there are many of them. In fact, here's 2 or 3 I could give you and help her broaden her view. So it works both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't shut down the conversation. Be prepared to have it. But ageism is alive and well. It's based on younger and older people and it happens to all. But I think to your point, what training and development have you done? What are you learning that's new? How open are you? What is your attitude like? And are you positioning yourself as an older worker or as a younger worker for the role you want? And when we talk about positioning, we're talking about personal brand.
Yep, personal brand, how you present yourself both physically, online. And this is even talking about, like, if you're constantly going, bloody younger people or bloody AI bullshit, like that is just positioning. Well,
straight away that tells people
that tells people you're not open and learning to things.
And that you're irrelevant and that you're out of touch, which is not going to get you a role. I can tell you that now. So one of the first things I say to people when we're talking about new work, new opportunities, I say, so your personal brand, how is it? And I can see the rabbit in the headlights. Personal brand, okay, so let's start with the personal brand assets. You know, how relevant is your LinkedIn? Oh, yeah, well, it's, got my last sort of 4 jobs and, the profile I wrote, I did it in a bit of a rush. And I say, okay, should we read it together? So we bring it up and we share it online and we look at it. And they go, oh, yeah, no, it's really bad, actually. I said, oh, so you haven't looked at it in a while? No. I said, so are you writing a profile for the job you want or the jobs you've had? And usually it's the latter.
Yeah.
Positioning is everything. So if you are an older person in your 50s or 60s and you are in the workforce and you want to get a new job or you're re-entering the workforce, look at your personal brand. How relevant is it? What personal development are you doing? But also how are you positioning yourself?
You often talk about getting a coach. In this situation, I'd go, are you doing reverse mentoring? And if you don't know what that is, you might be mentoring a young person or get a young person to mentor you. I mean, seriously, just if you go team up with a young person, get them to teach
Ask
you
them questions.
AI and stuff like that. Because, again, that is indicating that you are open to
Totally
stuff.
right.
And it all comes back to know your value.
Totally.
There is absolutely a huge amount of value being experienced.
Correct.
So you can focus on that.
Absolutely.
You could go in to say, I'm in a position, I can mentor people, I can
I've
help
led teams.
I can do all that. I can help your young high potentials.
I'm a parent of young people. I understand
you
your
can
young
do all
high
that.
potentials.
And,
I've worked with them. I'm interested in them. I want to support them.
You can tap into that value.
Absolutely.
But that again is showing that you're open.
So there's hard skills and there's soft skills here. So don't think the soft skills don't need to also be continually developed. Communication styles have changed, Leadership and the expectations
and we call them power skills. I thought we
call
stopped calling them soft skills.
Yeah, power skills.
Hard skills and harder skills. Hard skills and power skills.
I like harder skills. But the point is all of those need to be constantly reevaluated and reinvented so that you do remain relevant. That's really, really important. Or you're going to find yourself, unemployable. There's no doubt about that. You were just talking about reverse mentoring. I absolutely love that. One of the most beautiful forms of reverse mentoring is grandparents and grandchildren.
Yeah.
I've seen that so many times play out. I watch that in my own family. So the grandchildren will teach, Nana and Granddad how to use social media and what they're working on and what that means. And equally, the stories that the grandparents are teaching the kids or telling the kids, and therefore there are stories that are teaching them things, or they talk to them about, there's certain ways that we behave at the dining table, or when I was your age, this is how it was for me, which is fascinating stuff and helps them connect. So I think reverse mentoring is a really wonderful thing to do for both parties.
Even, you just talked about the stories, grandparents telling grandkids stories, but also in a corporate setting, or there's corporate history. Totally. And with older people leaving the workforce, you're potentially losing that corporate memory.
That's true.
And so how do you capture that?
Yeah.
So I think, if you're an employer, there's a lot of value in the older person. And if you're the older person that feels like you're experiencing ageism, then yes, that could be true. But if it is true, find an employer that values your skills.
That is critical.
But also, is it the whole truth? Because there could be aspects that you're doing that are contributing to the stereotype.
Absolutely.
That's holding you back.
I agree. Look, finding the right employer is critical, irrespective of your age, right? It's got to be the right place to work for you.
Yeah.
And the leader has to be the right fit for you. That's everything.
Yeah.
So ask your questions, do your research, I mean, if you're applying for a role and it's in a startup, and you are very aware that the average age in that startup is 32 and you're 48, then there's a good chance you're going to be the oldest there. That doesn't mean to say that that's not a good thing. That could be exactly what they want. We actually need someone with that experience. The chairman of the board I was referring to, in his 70s, we needed somebody with his skills, his networks, but his leadership as well, because it was so well documented how successful he had been. He was also quite divisive, so we knew we were in for some entertainment. But he took our company through a major acquisition that we could not have done without his experience. So there is real value in this, but understand the organisation you're going to, or the leader that you're potentially going to report to, and think about what is the value exchange here based on my age.
Yeah.
Because if I'm older and it's clear that I'm going to be one of the oldest, or that I'm up against people that are younger, what can I bring?
Yep.
And be very clear on that. Again, back to personal brand.
Back to brand, back to value, back to all that stuff.
All this stuff.
All right. Well, I don't know about you. I need a nap.
Yes, Nanna.
Because I'm,
can't say that.
Feeling a bit old.
You're not old. Have you heard of the term ageless progressives? That's us.
Ageless progressives?
Yeah.
Does that mean we just keep progressing?
We just keep
regardless
progressing.
of our age.
Yeah,
we
totally
never get
right. Well,
older.
we're ageless, yeah. Because it's an attitude, and I'm pretty proud of my attitude, and I hope it lives for a long, long time.
Just a little update on our Keeping It Real immersion 3-day event in Fiji. We have had an amazing response. Yay! And we have literally got a handful of spots left. So if you're keen, let us know. Jack, what are we doing? Just a recap.
It's called Finders Keepers. It's going to be in Fiji right in the middle of an Australian winter. How good is that? In June. It's about real fun, real connections, real learning. We've got 3 masterclasses. We've got a bonus session. We've got group mentoring. We've got one-to-one coaching. We've got cocktails. Did I mention cocktails?
We got time with us.
And you got time with us. So come along, but hurry up.
5th to 7th of June, only a handful of spots left. We're taking no more than 20 people. So let us know if you want more details.
Finders Keepers. All right.
Okay, keepers.
5-star
it's been
rating.
Another episode of Keeping It
Please
Real
refer,
with
share.
Jack and Rao. Yes, rate, review, share, and we will
talk to us.
Speak to you next time. Bye.
See ya.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jack and Rao. If you like what you've heard, don't forget to tell others about it and give a 5-star review. They may seem confident, but they really are sensitive 5-star needy souls. Yeah, right. Keeping It Real, created by Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan. Produced by Keelan Ferrari Brown. And this really real voiceover, spoken by Richard Phillips.